Thank you for hanging with us last session. So, my name's Daniel Mintz. I am a Pro Services Engineer with Jamf. I'm based out of London, living relatively close to Ben. And this session, which is Auto Casper NBI and the Casper NetInstall Creator, is really important. On Jumpstarts, the amount of times we get people ask, what's the difference between NetBoot and NetInstall? When should I be using it? What are the use cases? So hopefully we're going to answer this. There is a little story behind this presentation. So Ben attended our first CCE in Amsterdam, and working through NetBoot, working through some scripts, decided he was going to set himself the challenge of making an application to do the job. Yep. And here we are now. So before we get going, we're just going to do something a little bit different. We're going to start with a thank you. So there's lots of people I see here who don't live in Minneapolis. Anyone want to raise their hands who doesn't live in Minneapolis? Okay, so this is going to be cool. So we're going to start by giving a round of applause for all the people who are sat at home, who let us come here, watch presentations, meet each other, and tolerate the one phone call a day before we go to happy hour. So. And then we're going to keep that round of applause going for Ben Toms and for Nick, and they're going to talk through the presentation.
Thank you. So, hi guys. As Daniel just said, I'm Ben, and we've got Nick with us as well. You might also know me as... there you go, see? Mac Mule. So, it's a strange thing. So I come here and I drink with you guys or talk to you guys. And you guys are talking to me as Ben Toms and as Mac Mule. So it's this dual weird persona. It's very, very odd. So I work for a company called Penland Brands. We own some of the world's best brands in fashion, sports and outdoor. We are also a licensee for a number of brands. So licensee of Kickers in the UK, Lacoste shoes and Ted Baker shoes. And the guys I deal with, the guys I support, are the creatives. They're the guys that do the product, like this. I'm not the best model, but I'm on brand. So. And our environment is, we're smallish, we're like 2,000 strong. We've got 200 Macs and we're distributed globally. So we've got Macs that we look after from London, in Hong Kong, exotic places like Sunderland as well, which is a bit north of me, and New York as well. So, what are me and Nick going to talk to you about today? Well, first of all, a little overview of an imaging workflow and kind of the use cases of why you might use kind of network imaging. I'm not going to go into depth a lot on kind of stuff, but you should see Steve Wood's talk. I don't know if you've seen it already or when the video comes out as well. And then we're going to talk about our respective tools. Cool. Okay, so imaging workflows. You have your no imaging workflow. Makes sense? And your target mode imaging. So these are kind of, I'm referring to them as local imaging workflows. And there are some pros to this. You don't need to create an OS DMG. So I refer to an OS DMG as something that you might have created with Casper Admin or with Auto Damage or Composer. That is a DMG of an OS. It's forking free. I have to be very careful when I say that. And there can be less network strain, especially if you're using target mode imaging and you've replicated your Casper share to a machine that you're imaging from. Right. So the concept is, I say local resources are required. Now, this is actually people, and this is actually equipment as well. So like I said, we're a distributed environment. We've got Macs globally. The guys in Hong Kong who do our support, they don't have Macs themselves. So trying to do target mode imaging is going to be difficult for them because they haven't got a Mac to image from. Yeah? As well as keeping those local resources updated. So if you're replicating a Casper share to a machine to image from, you then got to keep that up to date as you go. I know Andrew Seago has a method using USB imaging and keeping them up to date as well. I think we spoke about it last year, or yeah, cool. And then what happens when you re-image? So target mode imaging, that's cool. because you can use your OSDMG and stuff if you're going to do it that way. Or if you're not actually putting down an OS, if you're just installing stuff on top and then enrolling the machine to JSS, how do you then get your OS back on the machine? Internet restore, or internet recovery, sorry, works great if you've got a decent internet line, if you're not behind an authenticated proxy, and if you're not on some MPLS and stuff like that, which can be a little bit bandwidth limiting. So we have some of those issues, so we can't go through that method. We can't use internet recovery in our office. So the other imaging workflows that we're going to talk about a bit today, we'll be leveraging NetBoot and NetInstall. So these kind of network imaging workflows, the pros and cons of them against local imaging. So it's a standardized workflow. Now, by that I mean, you get a Mac, hold down the N key, log into Casper Imaging, hit install. Right? You can't get any simpler than that, really. The guys who do our Mac builds are our PC guys, and they might have one Mac every month, maybe, to build, out of the hundreds of PCs that they'll be working on and stuff. So we wanted to make it standardized, and it's through the iOS revisions, it's stayed the same way. You know, since 10.6, we know how to do it this way. It's non-local, as in you haven't got those resources to worry about. You haven't got those. You don't need a Mac to target mode image off. You don't need to worry about the Casper share being local. And you can schedule re-imaging. Now, if you guys are working labs, I have labs and stuff, you might want to kick a policy off that says, at 10 o'clock tonight, re-image all the Macs. That's difficult if you're doing it locally. If you're doing it for network imaging, that's easy. So we're going to go through this a little bit more, but there are some network requirements when it comes to NetBoot. And if any of you guys have put NetBoot in, I know you've had that interesting discussion with your network guy, maybe, about IP helper and stuff, yeah? Right. And being forked, or getting forked, whichever way you want to say it, but again, be careful. And there's lots of faffing around. Now, you all get what I mean, right? Yeah? So, this is going to be a thing. So here you go. So now you guys know. So, and just like buses, you know, if you guys are, you know, these two tools came along at the same time to actually help automate the process for creating these images to network image from. Now, interestingly enough, this talk actually started from an angry phone call I gave to Nick on the day they released Casper NetInstall Creator, because I was working on Auto Casper NBI then, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? I've spent time on this, what's going on? And yeah, we had a conversation and realized that these two tools can actually work together really well. So it's not a competition thing, it was just, man, you're just taking it away from me. So it was 1 o'clock in the morning my time. Yeah, I was quite angry. So sorry. So the prerequisites. So neither of our tools are going to work for you if you're trying to do network imaging without actually having your network ready. So you need to have that in place first. So you need to be able to see your NetBoot image either through the startup disk prefane or when you do boot picker. We talked about, oh, that went well. Nice, well. So, hidden behind that. So when you want to create this OSDMG, this base OSDMG, you can use auto damage. So you get your Mac OS 10 install app, and you just run it, and it creates you a lovely DMG that's clean and never booted. You can also, the one that's hidden behind that, this is going to go really well if that carries on, is Casper Admin. So for years I've been using Casper Admin to create the same OSDMG, the same kind of clean, never booted one through, by using the install ESD, and then you compile a configuration in Casper Admin. It just takes a lot of time. The end result's the same, but use auto DMG where you can. And then Composer is when you are forked, right? Again, careful. So what I mean by that, so a new OS comes out, a new Mac a new bit of hardware comes out, you can just use Composer to take an OSDMG of that, so you've got that full to build version, then you can create your NetBoot image from that to boot the machine to image it. Wow. Okay, I don't know what's happened. Right, so the prerequisites, to get to this point, I'm just going to click through until it gets up. So there's supposed to be arrows between these things. So, yeah, the switch, right? So if you've got your server on the same kind of VLAN as your clients, then you might not need to do anything on the network side to get it working. You might still, but you might not. The issue comes when you put a switch in the middle, which is what that's supposed to say. And that's where you get into maybe IP helper tables, you've got ACLs and things like that. But it's something that you need to speak to your networking guys about. There's this post here, this AFP 548 post. It's about 8 years old now, I think. It's still as good and it's still as much info in there as you need, and it's still as applicable today as it was 8 years ago. Show your network guy that, he might just go, whoa, that's a lot of info, but you've given him exactly what he needs to know. And you can get that change request through, and you can get the IP helper put in, or whatever you need to do. You can also look at the logs on your server. So this is OS 10 server, and you get the inform, and you get the offer, and the acknowledgement kind of requests in there. And that does work well to a point. But there might be some times when you have an issue, and you can't troubleshoot it because it's not actually being... The issue itself is on the client side, maybe more than actually the server side. So to get those kind of logs or whatever from your NetBoot process, if you option boot a Mac into boot picker, select the NetBoot image you want to boot from, and then hold Command V, and then press Enter. You'll then get into verbose booting. And then you can see all different information. It's tells you which server it's going to, and it can give you like the whole process you can see, and it can be really helpful to troubleshoot this NetBoot process. Now, as an example, that lovely error message I was getting on some of my clients when we secured our sites with HTTPS and limited it down to a group, which meant that our HTTP NetBoot wasn't working because they weren't part of the group. They weren't able to authenticate to the store. It was a bit of a weird one, but that's just an example of how we had an issue and we used that, and that's how we fixed it. So, Nick.
All right. Thanks, Ben. So what Ben didn't tell you all is when I got that phone call, it was about 1 a.m. his time and like 4 p.m. my time. But to go into a little bit of history behind the NetInstall Creator, it actually was released in November of 2007. And much like Daniel, I was working in pro services at Jamf. And we constantly would go through this 1 to 2 hour process of creating a NetBoot image on site, and wanted to improve that process because looking at progress bars is not that exciting, right? And so we released the first version of the NetInstall Creator back in 2007, and then this wonderful operating system from Apple came out called Lion, and they completely changed how NetBoot worked. So for a couple years there, we were trying to work a little bit more with system image utility, and we had an automator action. Did anybody use that?
Yeah.
A couple people? All right, cool. Hope it worked out for you for a little while. And then Sam Johnson actually approached me last fall, and he said, I think we need to bring back the NetInstall Creator. So that's a little bit of the history behind it, and turns out that Ben was working on it too at the same time. So, but the real use cases behind, and we'll get into the specifics of NetBoot versus NetInstall, but basically we're looking to NetInstall to be able to image a large lab of computers. And the key difference between NetInstall and NetBoot is that in NetInstall, the temporary files that are being written to the operating system are not actually sent back to the server. So what that means is it's less load on the network, and so when you're booting 10 to 30 Macs all at once, that's obviously a good thing that there's not all this traffic going back to the NetBoot server, right? So that's where NetInstall can be a very good benefit. At the same time, it's a very slimmed down part of the operating system. So you don't actually have a Finder, you don't have a dock, You don't have much at all to work with within the operating system. And that's where the Auto Casper NBI actually provides quite a few advantages. So, and I'll turn it over to Ben to kind of talk through some of those advantages on Auto Casper NBI.
Thanks, Nick. Oh, sorry, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, so we can talk through the workflow a little bit here. So this is what the NetInstall creator looks like. For some of you, this looks very similar to system image utility a few versions back, right? And it really starts with just specifying the path to a source image. So just like Ben said, we have to have some sort of bootable operating system, either created with Composer or Auto DMG, or disk utility even, but some sort of bootable operating system. So we provide the path to that. And then we provide an image name. So this is what people will see in system preferences, so be careful with what you put here. People will see it. Or when they hold down the N key in your environment, they will see that name, right? Image index. This is not incredibly important unless you're trying to load balance NetBoot images, but the most important thing here is that you want this to be unique, all right? A couple checkboxes there. So if you want to enable it right away, you can just check the box to enable it. You can also set this image as the default. If this is the only image that's going to be on the server, you can check that box. And then a new thing that we added, we heard some of the feature requests to slim down the image a little bit. So we added a new checkbox to compress the image at the end of the process. And then lastly, adding in the Casper imaging and Casper Suite components of the NetInstall image. So we just specified the path to the latest version of the Casper imaging app, and then the path to your JSS URL. And then when you hit create, a number of things will happen. Obviously, the other thing here too is advanced options. There's not much there, but if you want to, you can change the desktop background. By default, we just have a Casper Suite background, so that's helpful when you're going through the labs. You can easily determine which ones are currently net booted. You can put your own custom image in there if you want. And then when you hit create, it'll actually go through and start creating the image. A couple things that happen behind the scenes as well is it will go out to the JSS and get the trust preferences so that if you're using a JDS, for example, that would be trusted. And I'll turn it over to Ben.
Thank you. Okay, so again, the same use cases for also Casper NBI created NEB images. But also, because we're in as Nick was saying, because we're in actually a full OS, you can use it for diagnostics. So, NetBoot in a Mac and then using disk utility to repair permissions or something. You can also do, well, with all the Casper NBI, you can also create images that can be restored to a USB stick, so that if you are in an environment where NetBoot cannot happen in that fashion, you can still image from a USB stick. And remote imaging. So like I was saying about our distributed environment, we might get a call from someone in, say, Hong Kong who's got an issue with their Mac, and we may decide to re-image it. 9 o'clock in the morning UK is around 4 p.m. Hong Kong time, so we image it for them. We boot into the NetBoot, connect via ARD, and then run the imaging from there. Cool. So I'm going to go through a run-through of Auto Casper NBI. How many of you guys actually used it and done the beta bit? So that's cool. Cool, thanks. So the first thing, it's going to ask for a username and password for an administrative user. The reason being, and I think Rich used one of the early demos with Rich or Andrew again, where every 5 minutes it was asking for a password, which got a little bit boring after a while. Yeah.
That would be accessing the 10 cents.
Yeah. So it doesn't. The app uses those to then run these commands with their privileges, administrative privileges, but it doesn't store them anywhere. It's kind of in the runtime or whatever. It's not actually accessible. So don't worry about that. The first thing you do when you load it up, you'll notice most of the options are actually grayed out. There's not a lot you can do with it because it's a process. We have to make sure we've got certain things met and made so you guys can then create the image that's going to work for you. So you add your OS DMG. It will then check for the OS version and give you the build version back. Imaging again. Imaging will then give you the imaging version back. And then you see the rest of the options are now available to you. If you enter in your JSS URL, there will be a version match check between Casper Imaging and the JSS to make sure that you're kind of the same version. I just got told I didn't need to do this, really. But I know historically there might have been issues where you're using, say, Casper Imaging 9 and version 8 JSS, and you might have the wrong binary installed or something. So it's just to give you a little warning. But I didn't want to stop you guys from creating NetBoot images, because you might want to create one before you do an upgrade. It also sets the name, and it will auto-generate that based on the OS version, and then append or Casper NBI to it. I didn't realise that NetSUS doesn't allow images with spaces in the name, so we've got a tick box for that. But like I say, that's the name that will pop up, and that's the name that will be on the image itself when you do boot picker, but it's still faux netboot might appear depending on what netboot server you're using. And again, we've got the image index, like Nick said, that's needs to be unique value. So also Casper NBI will automatically set that based on the, if the option below is being ticked as well. So the option below being will be served from more than one server. So if you load balance, the number needs to be 4,096 up to 60,000. And then it knows that the image is hosted on multiple servers and knows to do that kind of round robin kind of questioning. And then you can choose to set it over HTTP or NFS. You could just click build right here, and then you should have a machine at the end of it, have a NetBoot image that is an OS DMG, there's an OS version, sorry, it's Casper Imaging is on there. It should load at login with the JSS URL details if you actually added them, because you don't have to add them if you've got multiple JSS and you want one image. It will also do other things, all these options at the bottom which are grayed out. So it will create the root account, and the password's netboot, in case you want to know, because why, anything else? It will auto log in. It will set the JSS, the Casper Imaging preferences to allow an invalid cert. Now, the reason being, it's just going to be easier on you guys. Just tick the box. So, it will import the JSSCA cert, the same thing as Nick was saying with NetInstall Creator. So then you've got the trust relationship there with the JDS shares. Then, of course, as I said, Casper Imaging runs at login. It sets the image to be diskless, so that you can then erase the partition or the drive that you want to then put the OS on. It will suppress the setup assistance, so you don't get the iCloud helper pop up and all that. I was trying to do it in a nice way, and I struggled, and Rich pointed me out a horrible way of doing it, and it works.
It's true, it's disgusting.
It is. So if you want to know, if you go into, it's not, I really wouldn't do this in production, but in regards to this tool, it seems to work. But if you go into the Setup Assistant app, there's a little binary in there called Mini Launcher. I just delete it. But again, don't do that in prod. Just for this works. And then we give it a time machine prompt, we disable Gatekeeper, and then we reduce the kernel cache size. Now this is actually only going to be if you're running on 10.9, because I think we had some issues with 10.9, 3, 2, yeah. So it does the same thing. There was a guy who posted, I can't remember his name, but his blog's Design 79. He had a reduced cache thing. Is he here? Are you here? Huh? Yeah? So Lotus Shaney. Yeah. But he had a script, and I've just taken those same extensions that he was removing in the script to create the cache, and I'm just getting rid of them as well. So that was really helpful. So you can see already from the couple of minutes I've been up here talking, there are plenty of guys in the room that help with this tool. And you guys are beta testing and all that, so it's really cool, so thank you. If you click on options, you'll then see another window pops up. The top bit there, you've got your set netboot description. That also populates again with the details that you provided, the OS version, who's running the app and stuff like that. And now, the contentious tick box. Reduce image size. How many of you guys reduce your netboot image size? Your netboot image thing? Right. Okay. Why do you do that? Is it because, sorry, hands up again because it'd be difficult otherwise. Do you do that because you think it's making it boot quicker? If you put your hand up if you're doing it because it boots quicker? Or are you just doing it because of space and you just want to conserve space? Space, cool. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so space. So you don't want a 20 gig DMG, but then you'll then sync in, rsync in or whatever across your WAN links, and then That takes hours and hours and hours, it's just a waste. So, cool, because I was always reducing it because that's what you're supposed to do apparently, or I thought I did. But you don't need to. It makes no difference, because when the netboot boots, it's only booting and calling the parts of the OS it needs to boot. So you could, in theory, have logic on there if you're crazy. You could probably run it, but no, anyway. But it wouldn't be called until the app's run. So it really doesn't make a difference. So you can save some time in the step if you haven't got worries about bandwidth or space. Now, you can also expand the image. By default, I do some rough calculations, and the image will be padded out about 2 gig. So that seems to be a nice magic number that seems to work. But if you might find with certain tools that you might want to add, which we'll talk about in a sec, might need more space, you can just tick the box and add that. And then we've got the screen sharing options. So your ARD username, ARD password, and it'll enable ARD so you can remote on. Your VNC, again VNC password. Does anybody use the VNC on the Mac rather than through Casper imaging? Okay, cool. It was worth it then. I added it and wasn't sure it was actually going to be used, so cool. And you can set your own desktop image, because everybody wants to set a desktop image apart from me, but yeah, apparently it's a thing. And then we've got the advanced tab. Now, these pop-up buttons cause me a lot of pain. On here, you can set the time zone, the time server you want to use for NTP. Then you can set the time zone. There are 100 and something time zones. They're all on the pop-up. That was really painful. On the netboot language, you can choose a language. Now, Apple, there's a couple of hundred languages, or 150 or something within the OS. But Apple have it classed in 3 different groups. You've got your tier 1 languages, and they're the ones that are fully supported by the OS. So, whereas you get your tier 2s, where it might be a version of French, where it still needs to leverage some of the French stuff for the localization. So, on here, we only have the tier 1s, because that should work across everything, or the majority of products. And then you can set the input language. This is another horrible pop-up that caused me a lot of pain. But you can set it to British, American, French, whatever you want to do. And again, there's another 160-ish options on there. Create a read-only DMG. Now, this is for guys like Drew and his team who use imaging via USB or removable media. So it creates the image, then creates a read-only DMG that can then be ASR to something, so you can run around with a USB stick an image from. It installs the modified rc.netboot. Another one of these things. How many of you guys modify the rc.netboot file? Okay, that's quite a lot. So modifying this file, it forces the netboot to not write to the server. So it's more like the NetInstall sort of things. And what that allows for is for you to netboot machines greater than, in quantity greater than 10, say, because netboot seems to kind of stop around 10. I've had someone test this, and they did 35 machines were netbooted off one server, and they ran imaging from. So it seems to work. I was supplied it by a guy called Patrick Fergus, who posts sometimes on Jamf Nation, and he's on IRC and all that. So again, another contribution. That was awesome. And I enable Simple Finder. I'm not sure if you guys do that, but someone posted on Jamf Nation again. It's on the open beta thread. Simple option. Seems to work okay. So it's there if you want it. And now, this is the bit where you can start to customize it. If I'm doing something, or you guys add something, like maybe to do with file vault, kind of encrypted volumes, as people have been speaking to me about, you can add PKGs here that will install on the OS DMG, then netboot DMG. So you could add like Disk Warrior or some scripts or whatever custom stuff you want to do. And you can also add additional certs here. They get added to the root store, so they're trusted as root. So if you are creating an image for an environment with multiple JSS servers, you could put in all their CA certs within there, which can just help. Now, all of those options are written to a plist. And that plist means that when you can run the app again, you're going to find those things pre-populated with the settings that you used last time. So when you want to rerun the imaging when the new OS version comes out, you can use the same settings and just load the tool up, OS DMG, Casper Imaging, build. So that's gone from a process that's a bit of a faff, be a bit laborious, but you all know what faff means now, right? So hopefully something that you can then just click a button and off you go. The caveat with that, the way I see it, you're going to be using this tool on an admin machine. You are an admin. The username and passwords are written in plain text into the plist, but you can use that as your build document or something. But I don't see you using this on a client machine or something anyway, but just be aware, it's there. You can remove the plist afterwards. I'm just letting you guys know. Okay, and then when it reruns, if it's missing certain things like the desktop image you can't find, or if it can't find the PKGs or the certs, you'll get a nice little red line on there. When you build, it will error and let you know what's happened. So you can add, say your PKGs are coming from a USB stick, you can plug the USB stick back in, hit the little refresh button there, and it should then rerun and make sure that the files are there for you. And then when you create the NBI, if it sees that there is a folder, if it sees the netboot SPO folders there, it will offer you that as a location to create the NBI, or it will do it on your desktop. Now, space. This is the thing I'll say now about the rounding up and down. It's also obviously you can't create an NetBoot image if you don't have enough space. I'm looking at someone. I'm going to call him out. So I do a quick check on space on there as well. The process that it goes through, it takes the OS DMG, it sees how much space is free, creates another DMG that's that size plus 2 gigs, and then dittos over the contents, and then we modify that there. So your OS DMG that you've got for Yosemite or something, well, you can then use that in Casper, upload it to your Casper distribution points, and I'm not modifying that, I'm modifying another thing. So you're going to have your two sources in the end. You're going to have your NetBoot image, and you're still going to have your OS DMG there and clean and ready to use. And these errors, multiple errors for the process, well, hopefully you don't actually, sorry. But it will error if things do go wrong. And when it's running, so you get a little progress bar on there. There are times where it may seem to hang. This challenge I undertook at CCE, not only was it this automation list tool, it was also written in AppleScript. So 6,500 lines of AppleScript, Objective-C, probably 100 do shell scripts and 1 Perl script in this. It was a really, really silly idea to write it in AppleScript. But it was a challenge, it's been great. But AppleScript does not do multi-threading, so it will stall, the app will stall as it's doing some of the larger processes, such as creating the netboot DMG. But the idea is a little spinner should keep running, so you should have some indicator, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get away from that without actually rewriting the whole app, and I'm a bit bored of Xcode at the moment. And, sorry, as it showed in the oh wow, okay, this will take a while. As it showed in the last slide, the progress, there is a log file that's written, and it's very, very verbose. Every process I'm doing, everything that I'm trying to do is written to a log file, and it's a daily log file. So when you run the tool in 6 months' time, you should actually have a log on there as well. So here we go. So on the progress window, you've got the little URL to it, and then you can go in there and see it. It is very verbose, but you need that when you're troubleshooting, right? So cool. And like I said, when you rerun the tool, you just choose your SDMGs and it runs. Also, a little Easter egg thing. If you're running, if you're creating a Yosemite netboot image, then you select it and the icon changes to Yosemite, which is quite nice. But I've been able to create Yosemite NBIs all the way through the beta, and I've created from 10.7.5 up as well. And it does seem to work okay, which is kind of the point, really. Now, it's a little comparison between these two tools, because obviously we're talking network imaging here, right? What can this one do that the other one can't do in a better way? So you can correct me all the way through this. It's a fight. So obviously, NetInstall Creator is a slimmed down OS. So you're going to find that the DMG is much smaller, and also that there is no server load as such. So if you are mass imaging, if you are imaging a lab of 30, 40 machines, yes, you could use also Casper NBI with the RC netboot change, but you could also use the tool that's supposed to do it. You're supposed to use the method. So this is why NetInstall is great for that. So mass imaging on a big scale, use NetInstall. If you're doing one-to-one kind of installs like every now and then, or if you want to do diagnostic stuff, or if you want to image remotely, then that's Auto Casper NBI. Do you see the two tools complement each other? Does that make, yeah? Cool. And do you want to know the secret to how these tools actually do their thing? There is a secret source that I'm probably going to pronounce his name wrong. Brienne. That guy. He's a great guy. He's on IRC as well. He's written a tool called AutoPy NBI, which does it's like Deploy Studio and a Python method of creating netboot images. He's also got a tool, I think it's got a Python netboot server as well, which is really interesting if you want to have a look at that.
BSDPY.
BSDPY, as it's called, yeah. Very cool. And he pointed me to this. So that's a lovely path, right? That was great to get on a slide, Matt. But if you go within System Image Utility app on a 10.9 and up machine, then you will find, if you drill all the way down through this, these 3 scripts. And these are the scripts that Apple use to create a netboot image. They're just shell scripts. The secret is there. And all we're doing is leveraging the same methods and put a nicer little GUI on it and did our thing with that instead. So if you want to do your own thing, it's there. Now, just want to say thank you guys for having us. Thank you for you guys who have contributed already. You can tell a lot of people have helped out for the testing. MacBrained, I kind of entered it. I didn't win. I'm not sore about that or anything. I do talk to them still, so it's okay. And I had guys in the room here that were testing for me over the weekend and stuff. It's crazy. This has been, I wanted to help people, and people have been massively helping me. So thank you all.
Well, of course, we got one more thing. So as you all know, new OS from AppleScript a little while ago, right? So proud to announce today, we just posted to Jamf Nation, there's a new version of the Casper NetInstall creator that supports Yosemite as well. We already had one request on Jamf Nation, so now we can mark that one as answered.
Cool. So thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
And one more thing. So, again, I've had requests for this already. I'm going to release Auto Casper NBI today, for the full release, I hope. It should have posted around now. We'll see if it hasn't, in 10 minutes it will. Thank you guys, so it's come up already, that's awesome. So, this app fully supports running on Yosemite as well now. So, as you can see, it's running on Yosemite, it's got that flatter UI. So you can run it on Yosemite now to create your netboot images on Yosemite. But again, it's not constrained to the OS. So as in on Yosemite, you can create 10.7 NBIs, 10.8 NBIs, 10.9 NBIs, and vice versa. I've also added Sparkle updater support. Again, the whole thing of how you guys are contributing and helping me out, this actually came as an idea through Jason Bush, you're seeing just there, with AD Passbon. And then conversations with Rich and IRC again about an auto package recipe, which I can look at trying to do now. So it'll be out there and it can auto update. There will be bugs, and I'm one guy doing this. The source code's available, help me out please. But we can post updates and then you guys can get prompted to install it. So yeah, hopefully we can keep that going. And that's it, that's where you can get it from. mattmuir.com/Auto Casper NBI. My talk has basically been that blog post. And that blog post is going to go through all of the facets and the features as well. So if you want to re-reference it, it's on the help menu on Auto Casper NBI. If you want to have an issue, you can log it on GitHub, and we'll try and get it working for you. So, thank you again.
Does anybody have any questions that we can answer for you today? I'll take. You were first, yeah.
So I think you said this, but does Auto Casper NBI support install ESD that you get
So the question was, does Auto Casper NBI support an install ESD image for the source?
Yeah. No. So the idea is we should all be having, if you're going to use imaging and you're going to do like NUC and PAVE and have an OSDNG, you should have a clean one anyway. So we're going to use that. But I'm not modifying that one. So that could be, once you've created it in Auto Damage, in Composer or Casper Admin, you can then upload that to your Casper Share after the NBI has been created as well. So I'm not going to mess around with it, and actually it's a great point as well, because this stuff will work if your OSDMG is clean, and it always should be clean, which is why Auto Damage is about, and compiling for Casper Admin, or even a never booted machine with Composer, or disk utility, as Nick was saying. You've got to start, the source has to be clean, and then the rest of it should work better. So that was my mindset with that. I have had a feature request to do that from Nick. But at the moment, no.
Yeah.
A question for Nick. Regarding Casper NetInstall Creator, you just mentioned there's a brand new version. Does this new version also support SMB shares?
The question was about the Casper NetInstall Creator and whether it supports SMB shares. It does not currently support SMB shares, even with the new version. It's something that we've really been trying hard to work on, to find a solution for. It's something that is actually more of a net install limitation than anything else. Again, because it's such a slimmed down OS environment, SMB does not seem to work properly in that environment. We've done things like try to add the launch daemons and agents and frameworks related to SMB. We have not found a workaround for that currently. And as far as I know, I believe that's still a limitation in Deploy Studio, unless somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Rich?
They're forcing SMB1 support instead of SMB2.
Which is clear text, I think.
I'm still
Yeah.
using AFP myself, so I'm not
Okay.
sure. But part of the Deploy Studio system when you're setting it up is they say force SMB1.
Okay. So the clarification on that is that Deploy Studio does support SMB1. Definitely something we can look into. Just kind of want to make sure that it's secure as well. Thank you.
Just to say, all our Casper NBI works with SMB. Just
It does. Yeah, 3 rows back.
Either of you two tools work with plain Linux-based JDS instances?
Yeah, so the question was if either of the two tools work with plain JDS instances. Another case where I believe Casper NBI does.
no. So you still need to have the share.
Yep.
From what I found before, I haven't played around with JDS
Okay.
too much because we don't use it. But let me know. But I'm pretty sure it's using the share, the Python script, which you supplied. Is it the Python?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should work over WebDAV since it is in the MBI environment. Again, it kind of goes back to how much free space you have. One of the things that we found with, one of the big reasons we created that script was because with WebDAV, it actually downloads the entire package into a temp space and then starts installing from there. And with NetInstall, we have such a limited amount of space. They're actually RAM disks that we use for temp space. So we didn't want to get into requiring like 32 gigs of RAM on the client to be able to make that work. So that's really what the workaround was all about. Again, something at Jamf Software that we're working on as we speak, trying to improve that experience.
But as to what Nick says, then you could create an image, an image with Auto Casper NBI, tick the box to expand the image, maybe choose 10, 15 gig, give it a go. Anybody here try it actually with JDS yet? Cool.
It's the issue is RAM on the machine.
Right.
It's a RAM extract. It's working extract.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You don't have 32 gigs of memory and not big OS images. You just the rest of it.
So the response was basically it's the same limitation as NetInstall, as Nick was saying, with the 32 gig of RAM because it's in the RAM disk, and you're going to run out of space unless you have 32 gig of RAM or whatever isn't enough for you to cache those images. But again, Nick's got this Python script that will create a share, and then you can get away with it that way.
A question back there.
I stepped away from using netbook images and stuff like that in our environment a while ago, simply because trying to create something that worked across a variety of Mac hardware iterations was the term you used, fat-free?
It's yeah, it's faffing around. It's faffing around when forked is the term this guy's looking for, I think. So he's sorry. So just to clarify, just to these guys in here, he stopped using NetBoot because of the creation of images for the hardware when you get forked and all that stuff. So sorry, carry on.
So the rest of the question is, does this do anything to help rectify that situation?
So does Auto, Casper NBI, or NetInstall do anything to rectify that situation where you don't need to keep rebuilding the sets? No, because that's built into the OS. The only thing it does do is it saves you time. The idea is these are supposed to be like a couple of clicks and then you walk away, come back, and they're done. Just to say, or Casper NBI, to create a NetBoot image that is reduced and expanded, because they add extra time as well, on my little Retina MacBook Pro, takes me less than 20 minutes. So I'm hitting the build button for it to finishing. You know, how much time would this take you normally to do it? It takes a second machine, a couple of hours. You might, again, when you're faffing around, someone might call you, you might miss a step, and then you have to go through and redo the whole process afterwards. So we can't fix that issue in regards to forward builds. We can only give you a solution that will make it easier when you have to rebuild them or recreate them. Is that cool? Cool. Yeah. Over there.
You guys are working on NetSus,
Somewhat. I'm not specifically the engineer involved with it, but I'm familiar with it. Yeah. So the question was if there's any plans to support multiple MBIs simultaneously in the NetSus appliance. I don't know. I can ask around a little bit and try to provide some feedback in the discussion for this event or for this session.
But I think BSD Pi does multiple, yeah. So yeah, so you could use that as well, and it's one that I've mentioned to Nick once or twice, I think, or just now. About Nick's iteration of NetSus, could maybe, so based on that.
Yeah, it's something we can look into for sure.
Rich?
Just as a quick follow-on from that, there's a chap who was at Maxis Admin Sweden this year who's done his own third-party fork of NetSus to support multiple images. So that may be worth a look for you guys as well. But my personal preference would be BSD Pi.
Okay, so what Rich just said. Oh, and by the way, Rich has got a credit in Auto Casper NBI as well. It's Richard Purvis. He broke it so you don't have to. So, yeah. What Rich was saying is someone presented at Maxis Admin. Duncan? Duncan McCracken. And he's on a fork of NetSus that allows multiple NBIs. So, yeah.
Great.
At the back, up there.
This might be a silly question, but can you NetBoot onto a Windows server? And if not, is there anything special in setting up a Mac server for this?
Okay, so the question was on about net booting off a Windows server. Marco? So Marco was just saying that Brienne has done a solution for that as well. So what's the name of that project, Marco?
It's called the NBI. It's ridiculous to
Okay, it's ridiculous. No, that's fine. We're done. I imagine it is possible, but yeah, I'm one of those weird guys. I've got 12 Mac Mini servers I use. I'm happy to use that with caching, App Store for Update server. I use kind of the Apple tools. I know some of you guys won't have them in your server rooms, whatever, but I'm just quite happy using the vanilla. So, sorry.
So like our website, when you download this,
Oh.
is there instructions on how to set up the Mac server?
No, so sorry, is there any instructions on how to set up the Mac server side? No. When I was mentioning this crazy idea to the guys in my CCE. I made a decision, we were talking about it. If I start writing how to do it on NetBoot on your Mac server, then suddenly I'll get involved in other issues and be talking with you guys about stuff that's custom to your environment, and I don't have that level of knowledge on that. All I know is every time I've done it, IP helper and it works. But that's where I've been working. I think I was talking to Scott. Was it Scott? Or have I just called you someone else's name? Whoops. And he was talking about some ACLs on his switches that he needs to change and stuff like that. I've never had to deal with that. I just, yeah, it's going to be really custom to your environment. But I do think it is pretty simple, really. If it's on the same VLAN, you create an image, you turn it on. There's probably some information on it on encrypted as well, Charles Edge's site as well. But once you've got the network requirements in place, it is like one of Apple's big button on, and it should, in theory, work for you. It was you. Hello. So I've got a question for you guys, just quick. And it's great because Rich is here. So firewall and re-imaging drives that are 5-volt encrypted. What's the workflow you guys use? I don't use firewall at the moment, so yeah.
What I end up doing is you boot into it, and it prompts you to unlock the drive. As long as your admin account is authorized for firewall, you unlock it, and then you can de-encrypt from that screen while it's NetBooting.
Okay, so one solution was to boot up into the NetBoot and then unlock the drive as a local admin to it, and then you can decrypt the drive from there. So, Andrew, behind.
I created a little utility. It's an app that our help desk text run. Pops up, you don't have to unlock the drive, you don't have to do anything. All you do is it comes up, lists the drives, you pick the one you want, you hit OK, says, do you want to erase all the information, put it in the drive, you hit yes, works for a while. Sometimes drives like to fight you, so it fights back and just keeps working. Once it's done, it lets you know the drive has been erased and ready for you to start imaging.
So Andrew's got a AppleScript app as well. See, AppleScript. And it basically it loads up. It gives you an option. It brute force wipes the drive. It keeps it going and going and going until it stops. Is that on your blog at all?
Ben has been yelling at me all week to start a blog, and I will Monday.
So very clever guy. Got some crazy ideas, and it'll be on there. Yeah, you put it on there.
Yes.
So Andrew will put it on his blog. Look out for it Monday. So Drew.
Yeah, Andrew and Andrew have the same idea.
Okay.
That was worth mentioning.
Oh, cool.
We're about the same way.
So Andrew.
Not being scary, this is going to wipe everything. You did back up the data, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly how mine does.
So Drew's is the same method. Now what myself and Andrew, that one, were talking about, the way Casper Imaging is launched via a launch agent on all Casper NBI volumes. If you've got your PKG section where you can install PKGs, you should probably delete that launch agent, create your own launch agent that runs an app that then prompts the user if they want to wipe the drive or if they're doing diagnostic. And then from that action, it can then open Casper Imaging as you want and stuff like that. So there might be another tool, and I'm sure it would be great when it's on your blog. So yeah. So is that Elliot?
Yeah.
So Elliot's the guy, you won the MacBrain event, didn't you? With Auto Packager. So, which is slightly better than what Casper NBI would say, yeah, sorry. So congratulations, and hello.
We do it a little bit different way. We just do a one-line bash script that's, we just call it listen tell. If you call it with the right parameters, you can actually erase the drive even though it's encrypted. That's the same way ours does it, but it's a little more, that one still fails out if you do it with certain hardware. What ours does is it keeps banging away at it until it finally accepts it. Because that one line still will fail out if it's not mounted correctly, and when you're doing it through a NetBoot, it sometimes doesn't mount correctly. So what ours does is it keeps forcing the remounting of the drive until it finally accepts it to say, okay, I will erase the information properly. Because you
will run into that issue based on what was previously installed on that drive. While it's scripted.
Isn't it just diskutil CS list and then diskutil CS delete?
No.
Right. So just to, these guys are all talking about basically the same method in different ways around it, and I'm sure they'll have a conversation outside, and Andrew could put it on his blog as well. So, so Rich.
There is a faster way than just beating your drive to death. I'm not banging on it, I think it works, but diskutil CS delete, what you can do there is if you can write a script that'll check for the logical volume group, you can run diskutil CS delete, specify that logical volume group. It will really quickly, I mean, it's done in a second or so, wipe out that core storage volume, encrypted or not, because you're not trying to unlock it. All you're doing is saying, I just want all that's gone. Then it'll reformat it as HFS very quick.
So,
I have a blog post on it. Just search for diskutil CS delete under Flounder, and it should pop up.
so of course, Rich has got a blog post on it. On the Flounder, if you search diskutil CS delete. So that's another way you're removing the encryption key from the core storage volume and then erasing it, right?
Well, actually, what it does is it leaves the encryption alone. It just says, this entire core storage volume, I don't, I'm not going to try to unlock it or anything. I'm just going to wipe it out, and that will remove all, with the core storage volume, will remove all your data, so it's never been exposed. It basically just says, okay, just flush it. So it stays encrypted up until the point where it's gone.
Okay, so read Richard's blog on that. It might be something we can look at throwing in somehow as well, maybe, because it seems to be a thing.
And it is something that we're looking to, build into Casper imaging. The reason we haven't so far is we want to make sure we don't delete something we shouldn't delete, right? So we're just kind of vetting the solutions that are all out there, trying to find the best one, so we can be confident in the way that we delete a file vault encrypted drive, right?
Okay, so all our Casper NBI will have it in when Nick puts it in Casper NBI. Right? So, yeah.
How about that? Does that work?
Sorry, at the back.
So, in all of this, it just tells me I have enough reading to do. But, Rich, Andrew, can you guys put something in this JNUC thing for this session so then we can easily read everything?
Oh, so on the session, you can post the links up about all the other bits we've been talking about. So obviously Monday will be Andrew's blog, but yeah, we can put together the other bits. Yeah, we'll put it on there. What?
Yeah.
Rich has a blog. Sorry. Andy, what's the name of your blog?
Mine actually utilizes what Rich is already talking about. It just goes on to more steps into it. 'Cause
Okay.
by doing what he did, I actually ran into some errors. That's why I built my utility to take what he has, which is great, and go on to some more steps into it.
Do you have systems with fusion drives? Yeah, the diskutil CS delete should not be used with fusion drives because when you remove a core storage volume from a fusion drive, bad things happen afterwards.
So don't use Richard's blog posts for Fusion drives. Anyone else?
All right. I think this is the last session. Thanks for hanging with us. Happy hour next. Thanks, everybody.